Prior to calling meeting order, let's talk about just, we have a consent type agenda, meaning that we have items that we vote on as a whole. They are one vote, and if you have a particular item that you care to comment on, you must request that it be pulled. And by pulling that, it's just a simple matter of raising your hand and noting what item or telling us what it is, and we'll find the item number. But it is, we do vote on those items in entirety as a package, one vote, and that's the consent. Next thing would be roll call, and let's see, we're missing Rich March, which we knew. Today he's the normal chairman, and Jim Coleman. The remaining commissioners are here. Our names are up in front. If you can read them from that far away, I probably couldn't. And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on the meeting is approval of the August 10th, 2020 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded for approval of the August 10th, 2020 minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just for everyone else, we don't need a roll call vote today. We don't have anybody on Zoom, so we're going to go ahead and just to move it along, go the other way. First, the second item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Have we all had a chance to look at the agenda as submitted?
I move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded for approval of the agenda as submitted. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Who's going to read today? Brittany? If you would, just read the consent. Just for the audience, this is what I was talking about. These are the items that will be voted on as a package. Go ahead, Brittany.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item number 3 is conditional use permit review CU 1835 for Lori Beal to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in a suburban residential district. And staff is recommending to end conditional use permit CU 1835 as it is no longer needed. Item number 4 is Plan Unit Development Review PU 0801 for Leslie McGordy to review a plan unit development in accordance with Section 213 of the Pennington County Zoning Ordinance. Staff recommends to end Plan Unit Development PU 0801 as it is no longer needed. Item number 5 is a road naming for Richard and Lorena Papusek to name a 20-foot wide section line road providing access to properties in sections 25 and 36. And staff is recommending approval of the road naming of Papusek. Item number 6 is mining permit review MP 1902 for Pete Lean and Sons to review the expansion of an existing sand and gravel mining operation. And staff is recommending approval of the extension of mining permit MP 1902 with conditions. And finally, item number 7 is preliminary plat PPL 20-21 for David Grover to create lots A, B, C, and D of Busmar subdivision. And staff is recommending approval of preliminary plat PPL 20-21 with conditions.
Thank you, Brittany. I'll wait till Jerry gets back to her desk. Item number 7, Jerry, you and I spoke about 2 clerical errors that were in that should be read into the record. I'll wait till you get to it if you want.
Okay. What were they?
Oh, on the staff report, it has to review the expansion. It's to review the extension.
Then paragraph A has the same word expand. It meant extend.
I see.
And what happened there, it looked to me from reading it, was there was the typist picked up expansion from the initial request, the conditional use, and this is an extension. They're not expanding.
Oh, that's item number 6.
That clerical thing was somewhat important on this one, because they are not expanding their extension. If anybody's uncomfortable changing those, we should pull it.
That number 6.
That was
Number
number 6.
Okay.
Maybe we should, let's pull number 6.
Okay.
That would be the next request anyway. We'll just talk about that when we get to it. The staff, then. Staff, do you have any of the other number 6? Commission, do you have any items you would like pulled? Public, this is on that consent calendar. If you care to talk about items 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, if you care to comment. Okay, hearing none, we're going to talk about number 6.
Good morning, Kodak Environmental Planner. Do you want me to?
Point of order.
Oh, yeah, we have to do the,
We have to approve that
do the
consent.
motion for
Mr. Chairman,
the consent.
That is
Yes.
different.
I'd
I
move
agree.
approval of items 3, 4, 5, and 7.
I'll second that.
The motion has been made to approve items 3, 4, 5, and 7, and seconded. Any comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Go ahead and discuss number 6.
Okay. Kodak Environmental Planner. Is there specific questions, or do you just want me to go over the extension, expansion?
I started the trouble. If you look at number 6, and I'll get to it here, I just flipped away from it. Number 6, and it's on page 2 of it. You'll see that, and it's across the top is A is correct. The staff will be recommending approval of the extension of the mining permit MP 1902 with conditions. If you look back up the page, and when you start mining permit review, to review the expansion and existing. And then in paragraph A, we use the word expand again. And I think both times you meant extension.
Well, so in the request,
Yes.
to say to review the expansion of the original request was the expansion. We don't change that to review the extension of an existing gravel pit. It's reviewing that request, so it's still reviewing that expansion of that of the mine of the request. Does that make sense?
Not to me.
Well, are they expanding it or not?
They were, but if you look back at like our staff reports when we write in the past, it's the description of the request. Extending would be the approval. You're extending the request, but that doesn't make it the request. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that. They were expanding. They requested to expand the sand pit down there. So we're reviewing that expansion. We're not reviewing.
But we're extending it now to 2 years of review.
Yeah, so you could, if you wanted to, you could put to review to extend the expansion of the existing mine. I guess that'd be something that as staff we'd have to.
All I was trying to do in their benefit was that they are not, again, requesting to expand. They are doing the 6-month review, I believe was the initial requirement and they are now requesting an extension of the original conditional use permit. Is that not correct?
Correct. So you could take out that expansion part and you could just put to review the existing sand and gravel mining operation on the subject property. Right. That could be done.
Anyone else? Sandy? Thank you. Any discussion? Chair, take a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item number 6, which is a mining permit review, MP 19-02. Additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. Thank you. On to, what's the next one, 8?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yep.
number 8.
Okay, item number 8 is conditional use permit CU 19. It's to allow a home occupation, a one-chair hair salon in a suburban residential district. The applicant is Aaron and Heather Mills. The lot size is 1.32 acres. This was routed around for interdepartment review. The only major comments that came back was emergency services would like to see an address posted on the house and an individual one on the garage where the salon will be ran out of, and also both addresses at the end of the driveway off of Highland Hills Road. Staff did make that a condition. And then Rapid City Public Works said that the current system, a septic system on the property, could not support a hair salon. Therefore, they'd have to install a new system, which is what the applicants were already planning on doing anyway. So they'll have to work with the city, because it's within the city's 1 mile, on getting an approval of a septic. We did receive 3 emails about this. One email was in favor. 2 emails, however, and I believe you guys have copies of all the emails, opposed the hair salon.
Questions for staff?
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman,
Yes.
I recognize that Rapid Map doesn't line up things always correctly, but it appears as if this is on the neighbor's property. Was a survey done? I mean, when I look at it,
No, they did not submit a survey, but you definitely cannot go by Rapid Map. Rapid Map has images opposed onto the line, so if the image doesn't line up, you can have a house that runs through a property line that doesn't. So a survey
yeah, I
wasn't submitted.
just didn't know. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it isn't. And then, am I correct, they didn't get a building permit to build this in the first place?
They did not. What happened was their neighbor was getting rid of it, and they just moved it onto their property. However, staff noticed that. They let the applicants know, and they came in right away and submitted a building permit and have an approved building permit for the garage.
I couldn't understand
Oh,
it.
sorry. So the garage was on the neighbor's property. He was getting rid of it. The applicants decided to put it on their property. They didn't think they needed a permit for that. The staff noticed it when they submitted the application. They were notified. They came in, got a permit. It's approved. So they do have a permit for it now. If they want to expand it like they're talking about, they'll have to get another permit.
They lifted it up and moved it, is that what they did?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
Which neighbor did they move it from? And is that one of the ones that's complaint?
I'm not sure which neighbor they moved it from. I didn't take in the building permit. The one complaint that came in this morning, I'm not sure the address on, but the other complaint came from, I believe it's this property. It's one of these 2 properties.
Okay.
Cody, because this one's within the jurisdiction of the city, isn't it?
The city's 1 mile septic, yes.
Correct. And if that's the case, that building location may or may not be grandfathered too. But we don't know because they wouldn't have done it through us, would they?
The building permit?
Yeah.
No, the building permit would still be through us. The only
Okay.
thing that comes through the city is the septic permit. I believe that garage was moved within the last year or so, or a couple years, so it wouldn't have been grandfathered as pre-1994.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, question. Cody, did you indicate there was 3 complaints on this, or 3 emails on this?
There was 3 emails. One was in favor. They didn't have any concerns.
Because I seem to only have 2. I've got 2 that are
Yeah.
opposed to it.
One of the emails was received when I was able to right before the report was written, so it's actually that one's in the back of your
Okay,
report, and the other two were after
Okay.
the report was done, so they should just be an attachment.
okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
my concern is always with conditional use permits, that to me, they clearly fall under a different area than those uses that are accepted under the zoning. And I always go back then to item A, that, it affects upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. So because it's a conditional use permit, I put a lot of weight on the two letters of people who are opposing it, because this is the only manner in which they can control, their neighborhood under a conditional use permit. So, my only comment.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions for Cody? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, are there any other businesses in operation in this area? Do we know of
I do
businesses or anything?
not in this specific area. There are, I know, 2 or 3, I believe, in-home hair salons that are run out of garages in the county, though. But in this specific area, I am not sure.
Have you had any complaints about any of those that have been operating?
No, I have not.
Any more questions for Cody? Thank you, Cody. I know we're following the comment speaker request form, but I just want to ask, make sure that no one's in the audience would like to speak on this. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this?
I would like to say I know the applicants are here if you'd have questions for them too.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one more question. Cody, I just was flipping through my package. You said there are 3 emails. I've got one that was handed to me this morning, but I don't even see 2 that were in my package. Unless I'm missing something.
There's one in your package, it's right after the, page 4 of the staff report.
When Chuck and Carol went,
And the other was
Wait,
emailed to us.
Oh, I'm on a completely one, sorry.
you have that one?
Nope, I don't have that one.
Actually, after the pictures,
Yeah, it's
after the
like the
pictures,
last
it's this
page.
email right here. It's right after the pictures. There you go.
Yeah, and the other came directly in an email this weekend.
Yeah, it came to our email addresses.
So that's just 2, right?
Two against and one in
The
favor.
other one, it came to your email directly.
Oh, okay.
Sometime during the weekend, I think.
Here,
Gotcha.
you can pass those down.
There you go.
That's the 2 copies that I was furnished of the ones that came in. Give us just a moment, let him have an opportunity to read both of those.
Okay. I see that one. It just was a little line. I just almost missed that.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to ask a question of the applicant.
Okay.
if I may.
Cody, could you ask your applicant to come up, please? Thank you, Cody.
Thank you. My question really is
Excuse
that-
me, just for the record, I've got to ask you both to introduce yourself individually.
Okay, I'm Aaron Mills.
I'm Heather Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my question really is just simply looking over the conditions that are part of the staff's recommendation. And I just want to make sure that you know that you're okay with these, because of the concerns that were raised by the neighbors have to do with, traffic and so on. And so, there's, the condition is that your hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 7 a.m., Monday through Saturday. Are you okay with?
7 p.m.
Yeah, excuse me, 7 p.m. Is that,
I did have one question on that because I do randomly have clients that can't be to my place until 5:30, so sometimes it's 7:30 or 8, one night a week. I don't work super late, it's usually one night a week. I'm usually done easily by 7. But I'm usually only working 2 to 3 nights a week, and not every Saturday. Like the summertime for 4 to 5 months, I don't even work Saturdays. I don't work weekends at all. So I'm looking at 4 days a week, just kind of depending on. I based a lot more on my clients, but I don't have a lot of evening clients and I don't plan on taking more. So that was my question.
Okay. So, I mean, so you're suggesting that condition number 3 needs to be phrased a little differently to allow those, so do you ever anticipate taking on a client, scheduling an appointment beyond 8 o'clock?
No, no.
So
no,
really, these hours of operation would be really hours of appointments, scheduled appointments?
Correct.
Okay, so maybe we could modify that to account for those.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, I'm willing to, even my latest client is not allowed, I can't take a client later than, 5:45 or 6 o'clock or something. But
Okay, so really.
there's really rarities on that I even do that. I have, I think, 2 to 3 clients, just because of their work schedule.
Right, and the number 5, no more than 8 clients each day?
Yep, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Yep,
Is your 4-day work week, where you take clients, is that pretty fixed? I mean, could that be another condition to give some, you know, some comfort to your neighbors that you're only going to be working?
yeah, absolutely, I could do that,
Okay,
yeah. I believe that the one email that we did receive it's from the grandchild of her grandparents that live right next to us. And the wife actually called us and said that she's super excited for us to be there and that they want to become clients. So I don't know if there was maybe miscommunication at one point. I know, we're super, pretty good friends with them.
Yeah.
And I believe the other one that wrote in is up the street, like the traffic wouldn't even go past their house daily. Like they're far enough up that it would not affect them as far as that goes. So, and we are on a dead end road, so we don't have a lot of traffic. But yeah, I would definitely keep it limited to make everybody happy.
but I haven't been out there for a while, but I have in the past, and so there's quite a few houses along Highland Hills Road, and it goes further south than what's shown on the maps that we have in our packet.
There's a private road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that continues to go on, and that's a dead end road.
So there's a fair amount of cars traversing on Highland Hills Road just to get to all of the residents that live past
Past
you.
us. There's probably 10 houses past our lot.
Past us, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
That end up leading to that. I think there's 2, actually there's 3 around the corner that end of that dead end. So there's probably 10 or 11 houses past ours.
okay, all right. So there's a certain amount of traffic anyway that
Yeah.
goes in and out there, yeah,
Yep.
okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you for that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, we've got them up here. Other questions from the commissioners? I have one thing to say. Certainly, use of your property is very important. However, you should know that you've obviously got either 2 or 3 people that aren't necessarily in agreement with you at the onset before we vote, so that you know that, and would act accordingly when you're operating your business. And one of the things may be you might want to even contact those folks right off the bat, because conditional use permit is based on a review of a complaint as well.
Right.
So, and I'm just trying to address that issue for you. It's right in your conditions, so.
Yep.
Any other concerns or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional discussion? Anyone else, just in case you haven't turned in your speaker request form? I have to look down and read that every time I want to say speaker comment, but I guess it's a request form. We don't deny any requests. We're happy to have you here. Okay. Chair, be open to a motion.
I'll move approval of conditional use permit 20-19, but I'd like to suggest some modifications to the conditions. And that would be on condition 3, strike operation and just put the hours of customer appointments be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. And then number 5, insert, so it read that no more than 4 workdays and 8 clients per day be allowed.
Okay.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. I'm going to get back, make sure I say the right number. Conditional use permit 20-19 with some modifications to the recommended conditions. Could you read that back for us, please, so that it's clear? I don't want to goof that up. I think I can say it right, but I want to make
Condition
sure.
number 3, that the hours of customer appointments be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Condition number 5, that no more than 4 work days and no more than 8 clients are allowed each day.
Okay. Is that the way all the
Yes.
commissioners understood, especially you that made the motion?
Yep.
Okay. And you that seconded?
Yep.
Commissioner?
Yep.
Okay, open for discussion. Cody, I see you got back up here. Is it discussion on this one, or?
Oh no, I was
Okay,
just going to be
that's
up here if you had any questions.
good.
And
Hearing no additional discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to the next item, number 9. You don't look like Christina.
No.
You're going to introduce
Presenting
this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
item number 9 is conditional use permit CU 20-0 or 20-17 to allow for a bed and breakfast on the subject property in a low-density residential district. The applicant, Julia Rumba, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow an existing 3-bedroom, single-family residence to be used as a bed and breakfast. The property consists of 3.79 acres, which is a legal non-conforming lot. Access off of Lost Cave Road is located within the Lost Cave Road District. There is no special flood hazard area on the subject property. The lot contains a mobile home with a finished basement, attached decks, and attached garage. There is an on-site wastewater treatment system with a current operating permit. This was routed around through the interdepartmental review. The only item of concern came from emergency services. They just wanted to ensure that the address was clearly posted and visible from the driveway, and that the homeowner submit photos to the planning and zoning office showing that the address is posted. The applicant has complied with the application requirements. They have gone through the state health department for permits through the state health department. There are considerations for a conditional use permit. The effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for uses already permitted. This conditional use permit could affect the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity due to increased traffic and potential noise. The applicant, Julia Rumbaugh, will be managing the bed and breakfast and living on site. Staff cannot predict the effect that the requested use will have on property values within the immediate vicinity. The effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The proposed use should have minimal effect on the normal orderly development or improvement of any surrounding vacant property in the area. The utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or other necessary facilities are provided. Access to the property is provided off of Lost Cave Road, which is located within the Lost Cave Road District. All utilities, roads, and drainage should not be affected as they are already in place. That the off-street parking and loading requirements are met per section 310 of the Pennington County zoning ordinance. The proposed bed and breakfast will require 1 parking place per bedroom and 2 parking spaces for every 3 employees. There is ample parking on the site for both the owner of the residence as well as adequate space for the 3 required parking spaces. And that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The proposed conditional use by its very nature should have limited odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations. And staff is recommending approval of conditional use permit CU 20-17 with conditions. Entertain
That
any
it, Bridget?
questions?
I just wanted to note one thing for you. If you turn over on the on-site wastewater treatment operating permit,
Yes.
it expires on the 28th, 4 days from now.
Yes, so they
Okay,
should have
just
gotten
so
notice
you're-
for our office, from our
Okay.
office to pump and inspect.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that it should be renewed. Discussion. Questions for Brittany? Thank you, Brittany. Is there anyone? Yes, I thought. Please introduce yourself for the commission,
Good
for the
morning.
record.
I'm Julia Rombo. I'm the owner and applicant. You want my mask off for clarity?
Well, I just have trouble hearing, but if everyone else can hear, that's okay.
I have one correction for you. Item number 3, existing conditions, F1. This is not a mobile home. It was built as a modular home. Completely different set of construction regulations.
That would be the reference on page 2 of our book. I
Yes.
believe it says, under existing conditions.
Yes, item F.
Item 1, it says mobile home, just for the record. And she would like that corrected to read modular home.
Correct.
I don't have any problem with that. I
Thank
agree.
you.
Thank you.
As for the septic issue, I spoke with Cody this morning upstairs and brought up that the license needs to be renewed within the next 4 days. And
They
then
usually give you a little time on that, too.
I have not received a letter or email yet.
Yeah.
So, but I figured since I was here,
I know. I thought it was important to this particular function. Thank you.
understood. And then on item 4, or no, I'm sorry, number 4, item F, the requirements from emergency services. Is there an email address where I can send those photos? Because I already have the blue sign, the white lettering on blue that's used by Custer County. So I already have that in place.
Brittany, is there an email address that she can send those photos to?
She can just send it to plz@penco.org.
PENN.
Yep, PENNCO.org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Questions for the applicant?
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Chair to address a motion.
And move approval.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve conditional use permit 20-17. Additional discussion? Hearing none, and I forgot my statement. I'm sorry, Jerry. Any final comment from the public on this item before the commission votes? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. On to item number 10.
Item number 10 is a layout plan request, LPL 20-23. The applicant Link SD Ranches LLC is requesting to subdivide 2 parcels to create proposed tract A, proposed tract B, proposed tract C, proposed tract D and E. The purpose of this layout plan application is to subdivide the lots to sell for agricultural use. As the property sits today, they are zoned general agriculture district. One lot contains 209.75 acres. One lot contains 5.77 acres, which is legal non-conforming for the existing zoning designation. Access is taken off of Creighton Road. The special flood hazard area on the subject property has not been studied, therefore no data is available. The larger lot does contain a single-family residence built in 1928, a utility farm building built in 1955, and a utility farm building built in 1965. The other smaller 5.77 acre lot is vacant of any structures. The proposed tracts, one of the tracts will be approximately 36.88 acres. They will still be zoned general agriculture district. It will require a lot size variance or rezone to meet the minimum lot size requirements in our current ordinance. Tract B will be 23.05 acres. Tract C, 37.83 acres, Tract D, 23.4 acres, and Tract E, 5.707 acres. This was routed around through the interdepartmental review process. There were a few comments that came back. Highway is requiring an approach permit for each of the new created tracts, and that there will have to be some changes to the owner significant for the register of deeds on the plat. For the layout, for the purposes of this layout plan, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request and is recommending approval of layout plan LPL 20-23 with conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I guess I'm concerned that each of the four in the proposed division of the lots, none of them comply with the size. And so we're creating a situation that then requires either rezoning the comprehensive plan amendment or getting a variance. And it just was curious to me that, if a person is replatting something, that gives you the opportunity to make sure that the lots are all within, I think it's 40, is it 40 acres?
40 or minimum.
Yeah, within 40 acres. So is this an unusual situation, or do people typically replat into sizes that don't comply?
So in our new View to 2040 comprehensive plan, the minimum lot sizes proposed for agricultural is 10 acres. So once our zoning ordinance is updated, it would meet the minimum lot size requirement for agricultural designations.
Well, that's a good answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is,
Chairman?
go ahead.
But isn't it also true that, I've seen many of these where we approve the layout plat, but before it can move into the, the final plat, this has to be, something has to be done, either the rezoning or the variance or something. So this won't go to the final unless that occurs, that they get the size. So we never approve plats where it's a non-conforming situation.
Correct. So in order for this to actually get filed, they will have to do one of the two things. My guess would be that our ordinances will be updated, so those minimum lot size requirements will be met by the time that plat is filed.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
Additional comments or discussion for Brittany? I've got one.
Okay.
10 acres on the ag. And then we've got 40 acres to qualify for, with the tax man, right? As well as 3 rules. Doesn't that seem a bit of a stretch?
So our zoning ordinance and the taxing, you can also have contiguous parcels for taxing. So if you have contiguous parcels, they can look at that.
As long as you
Also.
meet the 3 rules.
Correct.
You know why I'm bringing it up. I have 40 acres. I couldn't meet the 3 rules if I was out there herding bees. So I sometimes wonder why we walk ourselves into those situations like Sandy brought up, why we go into those. Here's 4 variances if they want to go on ahead of when does yours fall into place?
So we're still working on the updated amendment to those sections. But if they went through the rezoning process, the rezoning and ordinance amendment process takes about the same amount of time.
Okay, how long before they'd have to bring this forward before they'd have to do it again?
It depends on, working with this applicant, it depends on how soon they want to get these lots
Okay.
transferred.
You've answered my question.
All right.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Brittany?
Mr. Chairman, one question for Brittany. So we do have one there that's a little over 5 acres. How does that fit into the overall scheme?
That one would have to get a lot size variance or a rezone. In that area is north of Wall. There's really no other zoning designations out there except for agricultural.
Okay, thank you.
Again,
Excuse me,
additional
yeah,
questions? For
yeah,
Brittany? Go
but
ahead,
the
Kathy.
5 acre one, it's already a standalone parcel
Right.
now, right?
It is, but they're going to be making it smaller. I think Currently, right now, it's 5.77 acres. It'll go down to 5.07 acres.
Oh, so it will lose its non-conforming, legal non-conforming status. I see.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Brittany. Does the applicant want to come up and speak on this one? Okay. Chair would address a motion.
So I'll move to approve layout plat 20-23 with the conditions as recommended by the staff.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded to approve layout plan LPL 20-23. And under discussion, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing is something new that we hadn't done before. And this is based upon new things from the legislature and review of the conditional use permit process by the courts. And that's this statement before we do our vote. Any final communication from the public or comment on this item before the commission votes? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. Now we're moving on to 11, aren't we?
Yes, sir. Morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, County Planner. Agenda item 11 is Minor Planned Unit Development Amendment, PU 20-04. The applicant is All American Sales. The agent is Doug Bellinger. He is in the audience if you have any questions for him. Property owner is Covington Consulting Group. The applicant is requesting minor planned unit development amendment to amend the existing Trailwood Village PUD to allow for the sale and retail, for the retail sale and wholesale seasonal fireworks, and to allow the future construction of a building up to 5,000 square feet for the storage and sales of fireworks on the subject property. The Trailwood Village Planned Unit Development was originally created in 1976. It was then amended in 1979, 1997, 2006, and most recently in 2018 to allow fireworks to be sold on an adjacent lot. As the property sits today, it's zoned Planned Unit Development District. Lot size is 1.01 acres. Located within the Rapid Valley Sanitary District, access is provided off of Avery Drive, and the lot is currently vacant of any structures. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. County Highway and the County Environmental Planner both had comments. One being direct access to Covington Street will not be permitted, and also that the applicant should have an engineered study performed to determine the need for stormwater detention since impervious area is increasing on the lot, and drainage will be impacted on Highway 44. The Rapid City Current Planning Division also had comments on this. One being the city's future land use plan identifies appropriate use of the property as low-density neighborhood, which supports single-family and townhome development. The proposed commercial use of the property is not in compliance with the city's future land use plan. And the second comment was also that South Dakota Highway 44 and Covington Street are identified as principal arterial street and a collector street respectively on the city's major street plan. Access to the property should be taken from Covington Street. Staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request as it appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area. And with that, staff recommends approval of minor planned unit development amendment PU 20-04 with conditions.
Questions for Jason?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Kevin.
Jason, I think you said that the adjoining property to the, further along Highway 44, is that fireworks?
Yeah, you can see in this picture here, this 4481.
Uh-huh.
That is actually the amendment that took place in 2018 to allow fireworks sales on that property.
How about the property on the other side of it?
This property to the,
Yeah, what's
to the
that?
south, that's Sally O'Malley's.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
commercial
strip,
mall out
that's
there.
strip mall, okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Additional questions for Jason? I've got one. and just explain to me what the end result will be. On our county highway department said direct access on Covington Street will not be permitted. Then the city, and of course it's within their jurisdiction as well, access to the property should be taken from Covington. And my inclusion in the question, I would assume that the other part that lines up with Avery Drive that goes into Sally O'Malley's. Tell me what's going to happen there with that.
Right, so County Highway recommended that there's no access to be provided off of Covington Street, and actually that lot doesn't take access off Covington Street.
Okay.
There's an approach right here off of Avery Street
Right.
that's already permitted to access that lot, so I believe the city may have been mistaken when they said that access needs to be provided off of Covington Street.
Okay. That's what I was getting at. It looked to me like it was just more obvious the other way and smooth. It's already in place, and people would be used to going that route.
That's right.
Versus adding another new one that people aren't used to. Thank you, Jason.
Yep.
Additional questions for Jason? And your applicant is here? Well, I do have one more question, because maybe it's just because I'm confused. But when we look through the history of this, there's several references to buildings, different buildings, on June 25th, 2018, there's a future construction of a building up to 10,000 square feet for the storage and sales of fireworks. And that was followed by, I guess, a condition that said a building not to exceed 10,000 square feet. And now we're going to, I assume we're not going to a building. Maybe down the road we are, because we're going to a porta potty, right? Which I wonder about anyway, but that's all right.
Right, and the applicant's agent can come up here and speak to that if you'd like, but I know that he does plan on putting a building on that property in the future.
Yeah, excuse me, and I missed one other one, A up there. It says, the Trailwood Village PUD to allow the sale of retail and wholesale fireworks. So that's been involved all the way since the start. And to allow the future construction of a building up to 5,000 square feet, that one referred to.
Correct.
But again, it was sale of fireworks, and I mean, that followed through. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to change horses in the middle of the stream, but a building with a bathroom. Of course, I don't know, do places have to have a public bathroom anymore?
Right, and regarding the buildings on each one of those lots, it'll be handled through the building permitting process. So at that point, we'll determine if they need bathrooms or a porta potty.
Understand. You have some guidelines that you apply to the particular operation and the size of the building and whatnot.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you, Jason. Any other questions or concerns for Jason? And the applicant is here?
That's correct.
Thank you. You want to have, does the commission like to have him come up or not? I would just introduce himself so we know who we're talking to. That's just my nature. Now I know what you look like with a mask on.
Mask on there. Hi, folks. I'm Doug Bellinger with All American Sales, and we actually have been selling fireworks in this area for about 7 or 8 years. We actually
Yes.
sat on the other side of Sally O'Malley's when we were renting from a gentleman named Darrell with Pennington Consulting, and that property got sold to, I can't remember the name of the oil, MG Oil, and they have decided to apparently go with another vendor, and so we've known Jerry and Darrell for quite a while, and we've looked at this property before, and now we just decided to bite the bullet and buy the property and within a few years develop it. Put a nice building there, and we basically only sell fireworks for 2 weeks, and we're looking at maybe doing something else with the building that we discussed a little bit with Jason, what it could be used for the rest of the year.
I only have one question for you. Have you had a chance to read the conditions of approval?
Have I? Have I leaving over this?
I don't believe I emailed those out to you, no. I can certainly provide you this copy if you'd like.
Okay.
We'll take a moment here and let them at least. While he's doing that, I guess I I have a tendency to ask that on some of these because it's a very important matter that after we get done voting on it, I hate to see the applicant get surprised because they overlooked a piece of paper or an item.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question for Jason. Relative to item 6, talks about stormwater detention. Do you know if that is in the works already at this point in time, engineering study to,
I don't believe that's in works right now.
okay. Drainage is always a concern for,
Correct. Yeah, but I spoke to the original property owner, and he said that there has been drainage improvements done on that lot, which would carry the drainage down the southeast side of that closest to Sally O'Malley's to drain that down into the Highway 44 drainage easement. But we need that confirmed. That's what that condition's in there for.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Back to it. Now, have you had a chance to at least review them?
Yes. Yep, I see the conditions. We are willing.
Are you in disagreement with any of them?
No.
Okay, the only one that I thought we should look at in the future, and I don't know whether you guys do in the department, I'm old school, is that the porta potties, if we put a porta potty in there, an ADA type of porta potty is considerably different than a regular porta potty. And if we're only requiring one, I wonder whether we shouldn't start saying that we should have a handicap porta potty if we're only going to have one.
Right.
Just a point that I think we should take a hard look at.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
both of you. Thank you, Jason.
Of course.
Any additional comments from the commission on this application?
I didn't know they made handicap porta potties.
Yes, they do. You're beginning to see more and more of them at the large-scale events, and they are used. They're used a lot. They also have requirements in a lot of areas to clean them so many times a day versus the crowd level too, which we might want to look at down the road. But anyway, that was just the point. When we're only having one, if we have additional ones, we can add to them. Any other comments on this application? Hearing none, the chair would accept the motion.
I move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded for approval to minor planned unit development amendment, PU 20-04. Discussion. Hearing none, any final communication from the public on this item before the commission votes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. On to item number 12.
Agenda item number 12 is layout plan LPL 20-022 for David and Carrie Kelting. The agent is Fisk Land Surveying, and Janelle is in the audience if you have any questions for her. The applicant's agent has requested layout plan LPL 20-22 in order to subdivide one lot and create lots 4A and 4B of Tract 3 of Tigerville subdivision. As the property sits today, it's zoned low-density residential district. It is platted at 6.02 acres, but that plat does contain an error. The plat should actually read 6.52 acres, and the proposed lots do reflect that in the new layout plan. Access is off of Tigerville Road. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. It does contain a single-wide mobile home, 30 by 40 detached garage, as well as a 6 by 7 shed. There are also 3 other sheds, a carport, and a functional outhouse that are on the property and are addressed under county ordinance violation COVO 20-0086. Proposed lot 4A, you can see it's highlighted in green on your screen. It will continue to be low-density residential district consisting of 3.5 acres. Access will be off of Tigerville Road, no special flood hazard area on the property. This lot will also contain the double-wide, the detached garage, a 6 by 7 shed, as well as all the structures covered under that ordinance violation. Lot 4B is highlighted in red on your screen, and that will continue to be low-density residential consisting of 3.02 acres. Access will also continue to be off of Tigerville Road. There's also no special flood hazard area on the property, and it will be vacant of any structures. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review with county ordinance enforcement, noting that there is a violation on this property. Staff's analysis of the request is that the creation of an additional lot will increase density on Tigerville Road, and the applicant will be required to improve Tigerville Road to Pennington County Ordinance Number 14 standards, or obtain approval of a subdivision regulations variance to waive these requirements. They have chosen to do that, and the applicant's agent did submit a variance to waive these requirements, along with soil profile hole and percolation tests, and that will be heard at the September 1st Board of Adjustment meeting. The proposed lot does not appear to reduce the size of the existing lot below minimum lot size requirements for a low-density residential district. One minor clerical note on the layout plat that staff noted was that the utility and minor drainage easement should be corrected to read 8 feet versus 8. Also, that prior to minor plat application, the applicant should resolve County Ordinance Violation 20-086 for the 12 by 20 carport, the 10 by 18 shed, 12 by 12 shed, as well as the 20 by 22 shed and the outhouse. With that, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request, as it appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area. Therefore, staff recommends approval of layout plan LPL 20-22 with conditions.
Questions for Jason? Yes,
My question is, why do they have 4 buildings that they didn't get building permits for? That seems
Right, so I
a
spoke
bit
to
irresponsible.
I spoke to the property owner. He said he bought the property that way and the structures were already there when he purchased it.
I see.
Go ahead, Sandy.
No.
Jason, I've got a question.
Sure.
And this is going to try some speculation. I don't want you to, certainly we've got I see it as the first horse up to the trough to drink. But how many potential lots could be divided on Tigerville? And then how many, what have we done to the density on that in regards to other regulations we have? Go ahead.
Right. So regarding that question, I didn't analyze the entire subdivision to see how many lots we could fit out there. There is certainly potential for lots to be subdivided out there. I don't know how many. I didn't go through and find.
I just wondered whether this is like the first horse to the water, is what I'm wondering.
No, I don't believe that this is the first subdivision in that area. But again, I could go back and look at the entire subdivision.
How many units before they have to have some sort of fire emergency type of?
By the moratorium, it's 40.
40? Mm-hmm. So we're a long ways from that. Even if they
I don't
look
believe
like if all those lots divided, we'd only be getting near.
Right. So I'm shooting from the hip here, but I don't believe that there
Didn't
are
know what
40
it
out
was
there.
now. Thank you. I appreciate that. Additional questions? I didn't want to hog the mic, but this is the first time I've ever seen a road district that now we're proposing, and certainly they're going to get, they've filed their variance, but could have got some standard 14 road for the road district out of the permit request. That's an interesting. I've never seen that before. Any other questions for Jason? Thank you. And the applicant's representative here? Want to say anything? Janelle? Nope.
I move for approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded for approval of layout plan LPL 20-22. Discussion. Any discussion, final comment from the public on this item before the commission votes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. On to 13. Do we need a little setup time for this first?
No, I'll just do some background. I didn't know if you wanted to take a little short break.
That's what I
before.
was asking, whether the commission would like to take a break before we get into this one.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I talked to Rich about this. I can say we're in recess for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Am I on? Yeah. We're going to call the meeting back to order. Everyone's present, and Catherine's almost ready to go. Thank you. We're on item number 13. Brittany.
All right, item 13 is conditional use permit CU 20-18 to allow for a utility scale solar energy system in general agriculture and limited agriculture districts. So I am going to actually hand it over to Melissa Schmidt with Geronimo Energy, and she's going to do a brief presentation and background, and then staff will go through their staff report and the requirements under our sections of the ordinance for a utility scale solar energy
Okay,
farm.
Brittany, and just for the record, Brittany did clear it with the chair. This is a point of order. We'd like the applicant to go ahead of Brittany's report. Thank you. Please introduce yourself just for the record, and you may speak without your mask if you care to do so.
You bet, that'll be easier. Good morning, Melissa Schmidt with Geronimo Energy. I am pleased to be here this morning to provide an overview of the Wild Spring Solar Project. So just to give you an idea of the folks that we have on the team here today, so we have Jay Hess. Oh, there he is, he moved. He's our senior project manager with Geronimo and also the project manager for this project. And on teleconference via Zoom, we have Michael Morris, who is our senior director of energy assessment and project planning. We also have Chip Lacoste, who is our construction manager, and then Molly Smith, who is project counsel. So if there are any questions, happy to have any of our subject matter experts step in and
Was that
answer those.
Monica?
Sorry?
Monica? I was writing the names
Oh,
down.
Molly.
Molly.
Molly
Okay.
Smith. Yep. Terrific. So Wild Spring Solar is a wholly owned subsidiary of Geronimo Energy, a national grid company. We developed, construct, own, and operate renewable energy across the United States. We have about 2,400 megawatts of wind or solar currently under construction or operation, and then 100 utility scale and community solar gardens also completed. So the Wild Spring Solar Project will be 128 megawatts, a solar energy facility. It's located south of New Underwood here in Pennington County. The project area is about 1,500 acres, all of which are under voluntary lease agreements with landowners. The proposed interconnection is the Western Area Power Administration, or the WAPA New Underwood substation that's located directly adjacent to the project site. A PPA, a power purchase agreement, has been executed for the project with Basin Electric Power Cooperative. We are targeting construction as early as the fall of next year and then commercial operation by the end of 2022. So in terms of economics, the project is going to provide direct employment opportunities for South Dakota residents in the form of 150 construction positions and then up to 4 full-time jobs once the project is operational. There'd be about $12 million in new tax revenue and $190 million in capital infrastructure improvements. Additionally, a program that is unique to Geronimo is an education fund, which will be set up once the project is operating. And what that is Geronimo has committed for 20 years of operation to contribute $200 per megawatt on an annual basis. And so for 128 megawatts, that's going to rough up to about $25,000 per year. And because the project is completely located in the New Underwood School District, all of those funds will go directly to the New Underwood School District. So this slide here provides an overview of the permitting and the field studies that we've done for the project. Oh, sorry about that. Here we go. So the reason we're here today, obtaining our conditional use permit from Pennington County. We are also in the process of obtaining a facility permit from the South Dakota Public Utilities Commission. That application was submitted about mid-May of this year. The process takes roughly 9 months, so we're looking at approval there around February of 2021. And then due to our federal point of interconnect at the WAPA substation, we're also going to be subject to NEPA and an environmental assessment for the project. And so that process is also underway. We've been coordinating with WAPA for quite a bit of time on this project, and we're anticipating our draft environmental assessment is going to be released in September for public comment. And then the table here we have at the bottom of the slide just provides an overview of some of the field studies that we've completed. You know, we've been coordinating with state and federal agencies for years now about this project. All of these wildlife surveys were conducted in coordination with South Dakota Game Fish and Parks and the Fish and Wildlife Service. We've also completed a cultural resource survey and wetland delineations, and we've had concurrence and coordination with the Army Corps and the State Historic Preservation Office as well. So this is an illustration of how a solar energy facility works. I'm sorry, I don't know why it keeps doing that. I apologize. So to start off, the solar panels will take the solar energy and convert that into DC or direct current. And then that's going to be routed via collection lines to an inverter and transformer. So then at the inverter, the DC is going to be converted to AC, alternating current, and then the transformer is going to step it up to 34.5 kV. And then from there, the collection will be routed to the substation, and then it's going to be stepped up one final time, in this case to 115 kV to match the voltage of the interconnecting substation. So here we have a map of the preliminary layout for the project. So I'll just highlight a few items for you here. The red outline is the project boundary. The black and white dashed line surrounding that is the project fence. The green areas that you see are the solar arrays, and so at this scale, it looks like it's just a sea of panels wall to wall, but that's not the case. So they're actually going to be about 14 and a half feet in between each row of panels. So it's going to be plenty of space for, pickup to go through, for snow removal in the winter, and any type of vehicles that need to go in, during operation and any maintenance of the project too. And then we have about 5 black hashed areas throughout the project. Those are the project laydown areas. And so those are going to provide space for staging of construction and equipment during the construction phase of the project, and then also parking for any construction personnel. The white lines going through the project here, those are the access roads. And then we have purple lines kind of hugging those white lines, and those are collection lines. And then along those white and purple lines, we've got little orange boxes. I apologize, it's a bit hard at this scale, but those orange boxes are the inverters. And so one inverter is typically required for every 2 to 3 megawatts. And then lastly, by the WAPA substation up there in the kitty corner, we've got a blue and purple hashed area. And that's going to be our project substation and operation and maintenance building.
Excuse me.
Sure.
May I interrupt with a question?
Sure.
Could you go back to the last, the map?
You bet.
So when I read this, I thought you were going to say you were going to build about a mile of 115 kV line.
Correct.
But really, I don't quite understand that. When I look at this, I see that your substation and the WAPA are really close.
Yes.
So how will that, what's the,
So
explain that?
I apologize, should have clarified, it's going to be less than a mile. We just haven't completed our interconnection process with WAPA yet, so we don't have that route completely figured out yet. That's going to come throughout the study process with WAPA, and so it was just a way of quantifying it'll be less than a mile. It'll be much less than a mile.
It's really the distance between your substation and the WAPA substation?
Correct. But there are existing lines, coming in and out of the WAPA sub, so there's going to be some work on, will it go, at a 90-degree angle like this? There's some variation there, but yes, it'll be less than a mile just to quantify that.
I see. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Melissa.
You bet. And so this just is a photo of an operating solar facility, just to give you an idea of what the project would look like inside of the fence. So it's taken here at the end of a row of panels, so you can see, you know, the amount of space in between each panels and vegetation growing underneath. And so this is a photo of the existing conditions in the project area. This photo is taken on 161st Avenue looking north. And you can see here we've got the WAPA substation here on the right. And, oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. So these are the existing conditions, WAPA substation on the right. So here's a visual rendering that shows what the project would look like once it is constructed. And there are numerous visual renderings in the CUP application. We've taken many from different locations throughout the project area to give you a sense of what the project would actually look like. So now I'm just going to talk through briefly some of the key parts of the solar facility and the construction activities. So access roads will be all-weather gravel. They're typically about 16 feet wide, a bit wider at turns. They'll be installed at grade, and obviously they're just going to be there for the life of the project, potentially beyond if a landowner requests to keep them in place, but they're just going to provide, access throughout the project area during operation of the project. So for delivery of solar components, everything is going to be delivered via semi-trucks. We don't anticipate any oversized loads, overweight loads, with the exception of potentially the main power transformer for the substation. But all the racking and the panels and everything else is just going to be on a normal semi-truck. So the photo on the left here is inverters, and then the photo on the right are pallets of panels being delivered. And we have been coordinating and will continue to coordinate with the Pennington County Highway Superintendent on road use for the project. And so here, once we have any grading and clearing complete, we're going to start by pier installation, pile driving the piers. And this is going to occur by vibrating them into the ground. So the photo on the left here, you'll see that process taking place. And then the photo on the right, we've got the piers and then the racking system on top of them here. And so I just want to point out, so the photo on the left, this is taken from a solar facility that was completely tilled, completely agricultural. And so that's why you're seeing like the land is completely bare. But we're anticipating that Wild Springs is gonna look a lot more like the photo on the right. You know, we always try and minimize grading as much as we can to keep that any vegetation intact that we can, because, that obviously makes restoration activities a whole lot easier. So this is this slide is a photo of our proposed tracking system. So Wild Springs is proposing tracking technology for the project, which means that the solar panels are going to slowly move and track with the sun throughout the day. So they're going to start facing the east in the morning, they're going to be about flat at noon, and then continue tracking west with the sun throughout the day. And so the mounting of panels is going to occur in blocks during construction. The panels will be bolted to the racking system and then electrically connected. So there is quite a bit of skilled technical electrical work required for solar facilities. And so in terms of electrical collection, the collection system will either be completely below ground or a combination of both. So for completely below ground, those collection lines are going to be plowed or trenched into the ground. And so the photo on the top here shows a trench with cables lying within. And then for a hybrid system, the difference here is that the DC collection, I'll use my mouse here, they'll be strung beneath the panels on hanging brackets right here. And then the AC collection from the inverter and transformer skid, that would be trenched or plowed up to the substation underground. So that's like that hybrid half and half. And so the project substation, as I mentioned, is going to be located adjacent to, within the project boundary, but adjacent to the WAPA sub. And as we discussed a few moments ago, we're going to interconnect via a short 115 kV transmission line to connect the facility to the WAPA sub. The project substation will be, fully fenced, gravelled, in compliance with National Electric Code. And there will also be a parking lot there for full-time operational staff once the project is complete. And then the final slide here is just a photo of some restoration and revegetation. So once all, construction activity is complete, any areas that have been temporarily disturbed are going to be restored and revegetated. We have worked with the Department of Agriculture, NRCS. We've consulted with them on the seed mix that we are going to be planting under the arrays. It's essentially a rangeland mix that matches exactly what's out on site right now. And that is actually detailed in a project-specific vegetation management plan that we've developed for the project, which outlines, the practices that we're going to be using for revegetation and everything following construction. And so that is just kind of a brief overview of the project. And as I mentioned, the folks that we have virtually, and maybe I can invite Jay to come up with me here, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Melissa, you talk about the project. Is there a lifetime to this project? As I'm hearing what you're saying, are you anticipating that this has a life to it?
Yeah, so typically like the lifespan of the project would be between 25 and 30 years. That's what we're assuming is for, the panel technology. However, there could always be an option following the lifespan of the project to repower, replace with newer technology, but typically 25 to 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
I have kind of a follow-on to Gary's question. So, I understand that it's, at the end of the life cycle on these panels, there could be the repowering and go on, but what if there isn't? Is there a decommissioning process that if you decided that you would not continue on with this would be decommissioned in some way?
Yep.
Help us understand that.
Yeah, you bet. So, in our CUP application, we have actually presented, I believe it's Appendix G.
Yeah, it's in here.
Yep,
Towards the
Appendix
very
G, the decommissioning plan.
Okay.
And so what Wild Springs is proposing is after the life of the project, which is defined here in this decommissioning plan, we would completely remove all of the facilities and, decommission the project. And so we have proposed a financial assurance for your consideration this morning. And so following the written decommissioning plan, if you flip over, there is a detailed decommissioning cost estimate that's been prepared by a third-party engineering firm that's licensed in South Dakota. And so we are proposing a financial assurance in the form of, we'll provide a certificate of insurance and a bond or a letter of credit for the amount to decommission the project, less salvage. And then we have also proposed that at year 10 of operation, we would reevaluate and make sure that that cost estimate is still accurate and update as necessary.
Can I stop you right here? Brittany, you want us to go ahead and continue to ask questions of Melissa right now rather than before yours? Okay, I don't want to double up on. These meetings can't get long enough. Yes.
Yeah, I have two questions. One, is there are there federal tax credits involved with this? I don't need a lengthy answer, but do you get federal tax credits for putting this together?
I may have Jay step up and address that. He's
I don't need a
savvy.
long answer.
Sure.
Yes, there is currently a tax program for solar.
Excuse me, Jay, you've got to introduce yourself just for the record.
Hello, guys. Jay Hess with Geronimo Energy. And the answer is yes, there's a investment tax credit that we're planning to utilize for this project.
Okay. And then my second question is, Are there foreign investors involved with this, or are you all United States? Is it all United States owned, or is there foreign money involved in your company or in this organization?
So I think I can address that one. So Geronimo Energy is now a National Grid company. And so our parent company is UK based. So yes, there will be some, through Geronimo, I guess our parent company is a UK based firm, but it goes up through a couple. If we need more detailed answers, I can get it to you. But I think, we're directly under a US based company, then it eventually goes up to a UK based
I see.
ownership.
Yeah, and the reason for my questions is I've done a lot of research on the windmills that are done, um, the leases that are all top secret, the foreign companies involved, and I just didn't know to what extent that applied, to you folks. I mean, not that necessarily matters, but it was just important for me to know. Thank you.
Additional questions at this point? I assume Brittany's in conversation right now. Okay, inverters. I'll just ask this one right now. I assume then it looks like there's somewhere, I think I wrote the number down, like 24 to 64 inverters, depending on your design of the project or something. 46 to 64, based on your 2 to 3. Is there a temperature involved in those?
This might be a Michael question, or Michael's on from design. Michael, do you want to answer that one?
How many
Yeah, thanks.
inverters, Michael? And please introduce yourself just for the record, Michael.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Michael Morris, Senior Director of Energy Assessment and Project Planning with Geronimo. So the nameplate rating that we refer to is at an ambient temperature of 25 degrees C. They do derate a little bit once you get up to the 40 to 50 C, approximately 10%.
Okay. And how many, based on design, am I right that there's somewhere 48 to 64 from your 2 to 3 range?
That's what we're expecting right now, yes.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions while we've got everybody in tune. I'm assuming you're going to end up coming back up
I'm
again.
sure. That's no problem. That's no
But
problem.
I appreciate you coming up, and we're going to put Brittany on for her dog and pony show.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mine is kind of the same information, but I'm just going to go over how this meets our ordinance requirements. So there are quite a few parcels that are leased through this project. There are 3 main landowners, which the lease agreements are part of your packet. We did go through the considerations for the conditional use permit request. The first, the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the uses already permitted. We do not anticipate negatively affecting the use and enjoyment of property in the immediate vicinity. Solar is a low-profile, low-impact, virtually noiseless and odorless. Numerous studies have demonstrated that properties adjacent to solar projects do not see negative property value impacts, nor does having a solar project as a neighbor negatively impact the ability to sell agricultural residential properties. The area where this is predominantly agriculture and used for agricultural purposes. The effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property. We do not anticipate impeding the development or use of land surrounding the project, which is predominantly grazing and row crops. The project meets or exceeds all required setbacks. The project will not impede agricultural practices in the surrounding area. And the project will require a letter of map amendment for purposes of changing the special flood hazard area boundaries. In the northern portion of the project, if you look at the northwest portion, a portion of that is currently in the Zone A special flood hazard area. We have been working with a project engineer that was hired by Geronimo from Respect that is working on submitting a letter of map revision to realign those floodplain boundaries in that area. We have worked with him on several occasions. We have had conference calls with FEMA on how to address the floodplain requirements in this area. So I just wanted
Can I
to.
stop you? That's
Sure.
changed recently, within the past few years, how to get those changed, isn't it, the submissions that you make?
No. So what happens is this is considered a Zone A, so those are the base flood elevations. So some of the hydraulic information has not been determined. So what they did is they hired an engineer, they provided some hydraulic information, and it actually did change some of the floodplain boundaries. The railroad does run east and west through there, so that does change some of it. There is a levee to the north that does change how that water actually moves through there, and that's what it actually
Do
looks
they
like.
review the wetlands as well? that are
Yes, they
in
take into
county?
consideration all of those. So some of those areas will be removed from that special flood hazard area due to those two, mainly because of how the water flows through because of the railroad. All right, so I'll keep going with the requirements. The utilities, access road, drainage, and/or other necessary facilities are provided. We will not, or Wild Spring Solar does not require public services with the exception of water or sewer for the O&M building. All electrical connections will be completed to the standards that are required to connect to the electrical grid. Permanent gravel access roads will be required and be constructed to meet the applicable Ordinance 14 standards. BMPs and standard industry practices will be implemented for drainage, soil erosion control permits for construction, such as the state's NPDES permit and a SWIP will be obtained. The Pennington County does require a stormwater permit also. Drainage will be improved with the conversion of tilled acreage to stable perennial vegetation. They have also indicated that there will be a small detention facility on the property to handle any excess drainage. The off-street parking and loading requirements of these zoning ordinances are met. Minimum off-street parking will be met on these areas. There is ample room for parking. During the construction phase of the project, temporary laydown yards will be used for equipment deliveries, component assembly, and crew member parking. In our Pennington County zoning ordinance, those laydown and temporary construction areas will require an additional conditional use permit that will be heard by this board. During the operational phase of the project, visits to the site for vegetation maintenance and equipment checks repair will be infrequent, and vehicles necessary for visits will park within the designated parking areas. And lastly, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting. Wild Spring Solar LLC will not produce offensive odors or fumes. Dust controls will be in place during the construction of the project. Vibration will only occur during a small portion of the construction phase. Lighting will be used for security and safety purposes only, and it will be downlit and motion switch activated. Lighting will be designed to comply with the NEC state and local restrictions. And in our zoning ordinance, we do have additional requirements under section 317.7. There is a table.
Can I
Sorry.
ask
Sure.
one already on your number E, you have noise, and I noticed that there's decibel items.
Limitations.
Yeah. Do we have a decibel meter now in your,
No, we do not.
okay, just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
So the compliance with section 317.7, there is a table that is in the staff report. I can go through each one of these. Staff did go through these with the applicant. Applicant did provide this table as part of their application showing how they are meeting each of those requirements in section 317. So if there's any questions on any of those for myself or Melissa, I could entertain. If there's any specific concerns, sure.
I already brought up the one that I had some, and that was the hall agreement, and I believe that you referred to that, it's under the way back in 14, page 14 out of 29, that the Pennington County Highway Department determined a hall road agreement will not be required for the project. And I just personally disagree with that order thing. It's like the cart before the horse. We're the ones that's supposed to decide whether there's dust, problems with the road and whatnot through the conditional use permit process. But here we've got the highway department basically saying, you don't need a hall agreement. Well, you need a hall agreement to dust abate. Sorry.
Oh.
I just don't agree with that process. I think it should be coming here first.
Okay.
And you and I spoke about that, and we need to take a hard look at that.
Sure, and I know that I have spoke to the highway department on occasion about that haul road agreement. And what they look at in those haul road agreements, they look at if the road is constructed to handle the type of traffic that they're anticipating. If it's something that this road typically does not see, or will not see on occasion, then they may require it. They look at the number of trucks and the impacts to the roads. The haul road agreement essentially is they do an assessment prior, and then they do a post-assessment to see if there's any damages, and then that hauler would be responsible for the damages. So at this time, they may not feel that there's, going to be any more traffic than what normally would have be on those roads, or the type of traffic that will be on those roads isn't different than what they normally see.
Okay, and here I'd have to speak for myself, not as commissioner, but anytime you have an increase and you're going to have dust, if you're the person that's living there, the dust is of concern to you. I can see where the highway department may not be concerned or see it within a particular guideline. Same way with edges of roads. When you have 80,000-pound vehicles cross edges to roads and easements and whatnot, it breaks off pieces. And those concern the people that live along those areas, and that's who we represent when we're reviewing these things. So that's why I bring it up. I'm speaking for me, I've seen it, and I think it's an area that's got to be looked into. I think it needs to be moved. It should be in your office. But,
Okay.
thank you.
And just for a point of clarification, any of the dust control would be covered under their SWIP and our stormwater permit for the stuff that's on site, not on the county roads. So just an analysis of the project, Melissa did go through a lot of this. The project will generate enough energy to power approximately 20,000 homes annually and avoid the emission of approximately 184,000 metric tons of carbon annually. They have executed lease agreements with the property owners. They have completed a feasibility study. Our county natural resource director has looked at their mitigation plans for the prairie dog farms in the area and some of the noxious weeds in the area. And they have completed a noxious weed agreement with our natural resources director for those requirements. And they are in coordination, as she said, with the WAPA to develop the interconnection. So staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit with 25 conditions. However, staff would like to add an additional condition that the letter of credit or bond is submitted to the planning department for the decommissioning of the wind energy system in the amount of 2.3, I think 2.3 million. Is that how much it was? Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's like 2.32 million, I believe. Or 2.323 million.
And is your recommendation going to leave it open to them to fund that as they see fit?
Now I'll defer that to Jerry. How does our auditor's office require those letter of credits? I believe it's up to this planning commission.
Some people buy a bond, some people do a letter of credit, there's other.
Yeah, it's either going to be a letter of credit or cash or surety.
Okay.
That would be up to you. Which one?
I only have one more for you. And I caught this in reviewing it, and it's only because a long time ago we ran into the same problem. There's the approvals from the FAA, which they've gone through marvelously and had a fine company. It looks like I read every word of it and stayed awake. And anyway, it appears in both avenues, the two FAA requirements, you have gone farther than was requested by the FAA. And that's where the hangup comes from. In our ordinance, when they apply for their building permit, we're going to require that letter 7460-1. And I remember that we did that to a little tiny guy that wanted to drag a thing around at the Sturgis rally. I think it was when he first came here, and he had his own little airport out there, met all the requirements. And we said, get that letter, only he was exempt and couldn't get the letter because FAA won't issue a letter to somebody that's already exempt. And we say we got to have the letter.
So what we have done in our office for those letters is we have an acknowledgement form that says that you are aware of this requirement, that you will contact the FAA to find out if you are exempt or if the FAA is going to require you or impose other requirements on you for what you're requesting. So we do have a
So we're
acknowledgement.
taking their word for it rather than waiting for this letter that's not going to come from the FAA.
So what, in my experience with these letters, they look at the areas, so like these solar panels are probably going to be lower than other buildings that are in the immediate vicinity. So like the WAPA area, those structures are going to be taller than the structures that are going to be in here. So they take that into consideration as part of that exemption. So if there's taller structures and these are, lower than those, then, that
Yeah, I
comes
saw
into
the
play.
glare one. I think they're beyond the 2 or 2.5 mile limit that they usually measure the glare. And then the height of the structure, I believe one of your poles is 80 feet in your current projection for design. And 80 feet would be within the tolerance at that distance. But again, they're both exempt. I just want to make sure that we don't ask them to do something that they can't do when they finally get to getting our building permit.
Right, and we've gone to that acknowledgement form for that
Okay.
reason, because it's the same as any other structure that would be in that zone.
I told the commissioner, we made that man come back and we had to change the condition of his conditional use permit because he couldn't produce the letter. So you must have taken care of the problem somewhere along the line. Thank you.
Jared?
Yes.
Brittany, I have one question. I fully agree with your additional condition on this regarding the decommissioning letter of credit or financial assurance, but, I noticed that in their Appendix G, decommissioning, the applicant does suggest that the cost estimate is updated after 10 years of
Okay.
operation. And perhaps that could be added to and maybe 10, whatever the right number is. I mean, 10 years sounds reasonable, but, give that some thought and see if that's the right number, or there should be some additional different years for updating, but keep it current is my point. And then I have one more question, and this may actually go back to Melissa, I'm not sure, but do you know if there's been any community outreach to the New Underwood community beyond the the conditional use permit process?
Yes, and she can probably speak more to it, but when they had first met with, they have met with staff on several occasions. They have had community meetings in and around the New Underwood area.
Okay.
The exact dates I'm not aware of, but I know that they have had community information. There was an article ran in the Rapid City Journal at one point, so there has been some community outreach.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And just to point out, I live probably about a mile away from that area via the way the crow flies, so I'm kind of familiar with it as well. It's out near my place.
Thank you. Any other questions for Brittany or comments? Any additional for Melissa or her crew? I want to compliment them. I know it's tough to read these things, they get a little technical, but I appreciate being supplied as much information as your firm supplied. I compliment you on right through, and you had the reclamation before I even got there. Because I was around when that committee was first done, and they didn't include reclamation, and you guys down the road changed that and added that sort of thing. So, again, I appreciate your work on that submission. Thank you. I guess the chair will address a motion. I thought we'd have more discussion on such a. I'll have a question. Are you going to come after him to get a decibel meter after the commissioners and see if you can get it in your budget? It would appear you're going to have to. What happens when we make rules like this and we include decibels? We have citizens out there expect certain noise levels. When they believe we've exceeded those, how are you going to show them we didn't exceed them?
So we have a similar requirement in another permit application, in the mining under section 320. They do provide that information. They do some regular testing and provide that information. If there
You
is,
put it on to the person holding the
correct,
permit.
correct. So if we receive complaints, noise complaints, that they feel that it's over, the burden of proof essentially
I know
comes on the
neighbors that
applicant.
like to put it on the 500,000 people that come on Harley Davidsons without mufflers. But are you following me? The citizens have a right to, if we say there's supposed to be a noise level, to expect us to adhere to that. So that's all I'm getting at. Thank you. Any
I'm-
other discussion?
I move for approval.
Oh, we have some speaker request forms.
I was gonna
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't had any
Yeah.
other.
I was just, we're done with Brittany. We have two, and I'll just take them in the order they came to me. Yes.
Trying to move it along.
Excuse me?
I said I was just trying to move it
Well,
along.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Dick Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Dick Johnson. I'm the CEO at West River Electric, and we're headquartered out of Wall, South Dakota. I think several of you know me. And I just want to rise today, and I won't be very long, just be brief and rise in support of the Geronimo Energy Project. And, there's several reasons they've talked about today. When I come to support something, I want to take a good look at it to make sure that I don't end up sticking myself into something that I shouldn't. And so I have spent a lot of time looking at this since they started, and I'll say that I definitely support it. We were excited about a year ago when they came to us and said they were looking at this project. We'd heard about it 3 or 4 years before then. They really got solid with it the last year or so. And I think she touched on a lot of the things that I look at as positive for the area. I think number one, of course, she talked about the $12 million in tax revenue that'll be returned to the school, county, and state. And then I think she mentioned also, I think what's really I look at is for the education fund that's really unique that Geronimo has. They'll return $25,000 a year to the New Underwood School District. What will that do to New Underwood? They definitely, small rural schools, they need that. That's a big deal. 4 full-time jobs, they said, will happen out of this project. I think that's big. That's $5.6 million in wages over the 20-year expected life cycle. Those small towns, again, we can use those. Third, Geronimo estimated approximately 150 construction jobs and about $25 million in wages during that time. Again, a big boom to our area. But I think probably for West River and for myself, what I saw as one of the biggest things is it gives us some competitively priced renewable energy. A lot of our commercial and residential members come to us and ask, what are you guys at? Where are you at on renewable energy? What are you doing? What are you doing? Well, we're a small distribution co-op. We rely on Rushmore and Basin Electric to provide a lot of those needs. But this gives us an opportunity to purchase that solar generation from through Rushmore and Basin to provide a renewable option. And I think that's just real nice that we can sit here and when they ask that question, they just drive 20 miles down the road and we're a part of that project. So really glad that Geronimo is here and doing this, and we stand in support of that and would stand by for any questions from any of you. Thank you.
Questions for Dick? Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dick. Victor Simons? Good morning, Victor. Please introduce yourself just for the record.
Yes, I am Vic Simmons. I am the CEO and General Manager of Rushmore Electric Power Co-op. We are the wholesaler for all of the local co-ops here in western South Dakota, and I am here in support of the Wild Springs Solar Project for a couple of reasons. First off, we are Basin Electric. They are about 85% of our power supply is coming from Basin Electric, so that's where this power is being purchased through. Just to give you an idea of the levels, yesterday, it's 102 degrees here in town. We topped out at a little over 200 megawatts for our 8 co-ops. You add in Grand and Rosebud, the 2 independents, you're looking at about 250 megawatts of load in this area. So this 128 megawatts will get absorbed into our system. Right now, if you look at where the power comes from, the closest we have is the dams on the river, which was used up in the 60s. The rest of it's coming from North Dakota or Wyoming. So we have no local support for voltage. For our summer peak, this will be perfect. it'll match up nicely with our load, and it's a reason that we think it's a great addition to our system, and comes in at a spot that's really the hub for western South Dakota, right at New Underwood. So with that, we stand in support. Thank you.
Questions for Victor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Anyone else that by chance didn't fill out, come right forward. Just introduce yourself for the record. But yes, I'll take that after you're done if you want. Thank you.
I'm Gail Bruns. I live at New Underwood, South Dakota, about 2 miles south of the substation. I want to thank you for the opportunity on behalf of the project and conditional use permit. My wife Wendy and I are landowners, ranchers, and leasing property to this project. Along with our neighbors Steve and Lori Swanson and Jean and Alma Crosby, we are leasing the entirety of the land to the solar project. Our grandparents came into this country in the early 1900s and set up farm and ranch operations, which has lasted over 100 years. It's pretty amazing that three families that close together have successfully operated for that long in sometimes tough and challenging environments. Geronimo contacted us in 2016 to supply land for this project. We were somewhat hesitant at first, knowing that this would be a groundbreaking project in size and type of project, solar energy. We were not wanting to sell our land, but the lease option sparked our interest. And the Geronimo and their lead presenters worked us through the process and began work on a contract that was acceptable to all. We spent many hours learning and understanding all of the intricate items that would make this project successful. We had little to compare projects to. There were no projects in surrounding states of this size to model. Land types and soil are hard to put a price from state to state, along with the distances, roads, transportation, etc. It was hard to find legal reps on our side of the table that had knowledge of this, but we eventually found some advice, and three families, neighbors as it were, signed the contract and pushed forward to the future. All three ranch families believe solar can be an integral part of our electricity needs. In this country, we have coal, oil, gas, water, solar, wind to supply our electricity needs. Coal and oil, gas have encountered some environmental problems in the past few years. We have not built any large-scale water projects in the last 50 years. The consumers are asking for renewable projects to keep power local and affordable. This summer, we're hearing of rolling blackouts in some areas. We don't want this to happen in our state. On the other hand, ranching is not what it used to be. Cattle prices have been down for a number of years with no real prospect for the near futures. Taxes, insurances, machinery, etc. continue to rise. The COVID-19 virus has harmed our communities and schools. We hope this project can help our rural area to stay grounded and prosper. The tax revenue for our schools, city, and county will increase and help them to keep functioning at a higher level. When this project begins, there will be an increasing labor demand, perhaps up to 100 to 150 workers. When finished, there will be several well-paying jobs to maintain the facilities. Another item is our local co-ops are purchasing the power. West River Electric and Black Hills Electric will keep the power local and not flowing out of the state. Geronimo leadership designed some innovative ways to help our community through charitable funding. In closing, we need to look at the future, and I ask the Planning Commission to act with a yes on this zoning application. Thank you.
Any questions for Gail? Thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that hasn't turned one in would like to speak or comment? Only discussion I'm going to throw in this, remember what we spoke about when we were revising the conditional use permit ordinance. We have to look seriously as members, and I just want to reiterate this, and I'm sure our attorney's sitting out there listening, to look at the 5 conditions, which are soon to be 7 conditions, and make sure you as a commissioner, there's 5 of us today that were satisfied by this proposal that's been put on the table today, that they meet or exceed those 5 conditions. I can't say enough because we don't really discuss them. We haven't been in the habit of taking them item by item and discussing it in the past. But that's very important to the future conditional use permits, especially when we go to the 7-item one, which is coming up here pretty soon when it all gets passed. Anyway, I've said enough on that. Anybody else have any comments or concerns at this point? Hearing none at all? Anybody in the public?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval with the 26 conditions.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded for approval per the 26 conditions. Let me flip right back to the right number. Conditional use permit CU 20-18 with 26 conditions as submitted by staff. Discussion. Any final comments from the public on this item before the commission votes? Yes. Sure. Come right up. You'll have to reintroduce yourself.
Melissa Schmidt with Geronimo Energy. Before the vote, I was just wondering if we could get the additional condition just read back on decommissioning. I don't think I heard that in its entirety. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that language.
Sure. And just a note on letters of credit, they're usually good for like a year. But if you submit your like cash surety bond, that goes into an actual line item account for the county. And that's followed up on yearly. So this is what I put it for the condition, that a letter of credit or cash surety bond in the amount of 2.32 million be submitted, and you can add so many days of approval of the conditional use permit for the decommissioning of the solar modules, and the letter of credit or cash surety bond is reviewed on a yearly basis. So if we want to revise that, we can do it at this time.
Could I just add
Sure,
a comment
go right
to it?
ahead.
So in our decommissioning plan, we did propose 10 years to review. Again, happy to have additional discussion on that or thoughts, but I did just want to
One of the
clarify.
ways might be to have the surety is going to be dated. In case of bond, it runs out at a certain date, and they're usually shorter, but a surety usually has a drop dead date in it.
Right, sorry, Brittany Molitor again. So with the letter of credit, the reason why we have to review them every year is because it's a letter of credit from the bank. So the bank has to assure us every year that that company still has good standing.
Right.
So it could be something that's just, doesn't require any hearing in front of this board. It wouldn't ever change the amount. It should be 2.323 million.
232?
Yeah, 323.
323.
Yeah, 323.
And if they choose a surety, you'll get a certificate of insurance.
Right,
right?
no, you get the actual cash
So
bond.
you do
Yeah, so you
get the
either have
bond.
to have the letter of credit or the cash bond that are go into an account that the auditor
Okay.
tracks and keeps track of. The letter of credit would just have to be updated in our office every year to show that the company is still viable, that they can still back that, that number. Essentially is what it is. So with the 10 years, what we could recommend is adding on to that condition is that they reevaluate that actual number in 10 years based upon whatever the economic situation is at that time. So that it's kind of it's two different things.
She may
Clarifying,
she
yes.
may have really brought up a heck of a point. This is all new territory, Commissioner. Normally, it's the Board of Commissioners decide where the different levels of surety and questions of that matter, and they have their staff decide those sort of things. This is done when it's done here, Commissioner. So we're going to have to provide, we've never dealt with this where we provide some flexibility with our staff to review those sort of things. In other words, somebody's got to look at them and decide this is in the amount and the wording, et cetera, that we want. Are we going to have to go farther and then say, well, the applicant submits it to our attorney for the planning and zoning department? I don't know. What I'm saying is this is a whole new territory for us on this one.
So typically in the past, this board, the planning commission or the board of commissioners has required that. Staff works with the auditor's office and the treasurer's office to ensure that it's adequate for what they would need to do. Our attorney would look at it to make sure that it's worded in such a manner that we can actually cash it or use it in the event that we would need to.
If that's the case, then
Yes.
perhaps in our motion, we should include the amount that's submitted. We better have a specific amount so the auditor has some idea
Well,
whether it's sufficient.
because, well, we'll include that in the condition.
No, the condition
Wondering.
can just have the amount. The process that we go
Right.
through, you know.
That's why I'm saying the
right.
amount's got to be somewhere then, so the auditor has a starting point for review.
Right, right. So, and then,
Is that in our conditions right now?
so the amount is, and then they have their light item information. So
Right.
let's say that something goes wrong and we have to go through the decommissioning process, we would use what they submitted for their line items. And whatever portion of that would need to be done, we'd cash or utilize the line of credit for whatever that line item that's deficient would be.
I don't see in our conditions that we have that amount. In the 25 conditions we have in the motion.
Oh, it
is what
was
I'm
the
saying.
new.
It was added.
Added.
Added?
Right.
Okay,
When
I'm
we were,
sorry.
when we were discussing it, we
I
said
did,
that
I
that
was
would be a good one.
pushing papers around, sorry. I apologize. Went out in the ozone layer for a moment, thank you. Thanks.
So Brittany, if you don't,
Go
Mr.
right
Chairman,
ahead.
so I guess, are we looking at maybe putting another sentence in there that says it needs to be reviewed in 10 years to ensure that the bond or the letter of credit is up to date with current values? Is that what you're looking for? Because I'm fine with that as a motioner, so.
I like the language that's in the plan that says
Oh, it's excellent.
the decommissioning cost estimate. I mean, I think that says what we need to do. Will be provided,
Submitted by the
will be
applicant.
used, will be updated in 10 years, after 10 years of operation.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's pretty direct and clear.
I like
But I
that, too.
understand clearly that reviewing after 1 year, if it's a line of credit, then that's important to do to ensure that it's still in good standing. But this is another, yeah,
They're separate requirements.
yes, yes.
Just one more question for Brittany. So as I understand it, if they do a letter of credit, then in your tickler file somewhere, it pops up that you should review that by the year to make sure they're at the same bank, they're dealing with the same folks. If they take the surety, it's a whole different deal, which I agree. You don't need to have popping up every year.
Correct, because that actually goes into an account.
Correct.
So, yes, so it's
Okay.
different. One of them is just verifying that
Just
they still
wanted to-
have good credit standing. The other one is actually the cash.
All right, thank you.
So Jerry, did we get that added to there? Okay.
I still got to do my statement again before we vote. Any final comments from the public on this item before the commission votes? Anyone? You certainly have the right. We're not going to speak about it anymore, but you can. Thank you. Hearing none.
And just a point of order, just to make sure the seconder, I don't know if the seconder said that they agree with the addition, because I said as the motioner adding that extra line, I just want to make sure we're good
You're
according
probably
to
correct.
process.
Chair didn't catch that. Does the second agree with the addition of the new language regarding the reclamation?
Did I second it?
No, it's Sandy.
Oh,
It was Sandy.
Sandy.
I've lost where we are. I'm just waiting for the vote. Sorry.
The right answer is yes.
We're asking whether you agree
Yes,
with.
fine.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any additional? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. County Board report.
So the Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from the August 10th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Items from the public. We're quickly losing our public. And as I said, my comment in regards to the hall agreement is from the public. Would you please write that down? And I really think that's important for the planning commission to be the one that's looking at the hall agreements before we put them out to other people to look at. I mean, they've got to decide what's in the best interest of the particular property owners before we vote on a conditional use permit. Thank you. Items from the staff? Nothing. Items from the membership? I guess that's what I already did, trying to be the public, huh? Thank you. An adjournment motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're going to adjourn.